Nigerians saw the end of a bitter and sanguinary civil war in which two sides of our country have been pitched against each other for fully 30 months. A war which had directly and indirectly taken the lives of millions of our citizens and had left the lives of more millions shattered. I assess that we are assembled to mark this day for two important reasons. That is, apart from celebrating and honoring the ones whom we lost, the millions whom we lost in the Civil War. First, we are assembled in gratitude to God that our Civil War came to an end when it did, and that it did not continue beyond that day to go on inflicting more deaths and more wounds on us, citizens and peoples of Nigeria and of our country as a corporate entity in the world. Secondly, and more importantly, we elders, leaders, rulers, and citizens of Nigeria are assembled here today before the world and before the ruler of all peoples and nations to assert that we, the people of this country called Nigeria, will never again manage the affairs of our country in such a way as to lead to war among us. It is hugely providential that we are registering this result today before the world and before the creator and ruler of the world. I say providentially because as an elderly citizen of this country now, and as a citizen who was already a young university teacher in the time of our Civil War, I have good reasons to fear today that the character of the affairs of our country these days and the prevailing mood among us Nigerians are chillingly similar to the character of the affairs of our country in the months leading to our Civil War. The government of our country is being managed in ways that make it look like an exclusive preserve of a particular minority. There seems to be an agenda being pursued now to establish this minority in all positions of command in the executive, administrative, judicial, and security services of our country. The voices of the majority register protests continually and are continually disrespected and ignored. The state of law is patently being subsumed to the needs of that agenda, with seriously damaging effects on human rights. These situations are inevitably fostering among the peoples of the Middle Belt and the peoples of the south of our country the feeling that they are being reduced to the status of conquered peoples in Nigeria. Meanwhile, some persons belonging to the would-be minority conquerors are loudly threatening to overrun and seize the ancestral homelands of the said peoples of the Middle Belt and the South, and are actually pushing for that conquest with their acts of destruction of farms and villages acts of wanton killings of people, acts of kidnapping, acts of intimidation, and the act of bringing masses of their ethnic kinsmen from countries beyond Nigeria to seize and possess land by force and intimidation in Nigeria. And meanwhile, the government of Nigeria seems to be purposed not to defend the threatened peoples of Nigeria, but to aid the process of the conquest. The outcome of all this, as we assemble here today, the outcome of all this as we assemble here today, is that our country is divided again into two hostile parts. The minority that, the first part is the minority that seems bent on conquest and ethnic cleansing, and the majority that is striving with great handicaps to preserve their homelands and their existence and integrity as people. Meanwhile also, as a manifest corollary to these fearsome developments, the dreaded fundamentalist terrorist movement, ISIS, after being vanquished in the Middle East, has established its new strong base in a part of Nigeria, and from there has proclaimed West Africa as its new province of Iswap. The probability has become high, therefore, that ISIS might make a junction with a minority pushing for the conquest of the majority in Nigeria, that Nigeria might thus be ravaged by ISIS, that Nigeria might soon be the base from which ISIS will push to conquer West Africa and all of Africa, with the purpose of turning Africa into a mighty base of fundamentalist terror against the rest of the civilized world. But again plunging our country into civil war, we can and we must terminate all this descent towards horrific war. We can and we must speedily move our country into the state of law, the state of mutual respect among our hundreds of peoples, and the state of order and peace in our country. The steps needed to accomplish this new order of existence for our country are obvious. First, the Nigerian ethnic nation that has been threatening other Nigerian ethnic nations, that has been engaging in invasion, destruction, disruption, and barbarous rampages in the homelands of other Nigerian peoples, and that has been mobilizing external forces to assist the conquest, the subjugation, and ethnic cleansing of other Nigerian ethnic nations, must now immediately stop and renounce this agenda to the satisfaction of all of us in Nigeria. And to the satisfaction of the rest of the civilized world. Secondly, after that agenda has been stopped and renounced by its authors, we Nigerians must restructure our country with the objective of giving our country a true and generally acceptable federal structure under which the different sections of our country will be able to develop their resources for the conquest of poverty in their domains. For the elevation of the quality of life of their citizens, and for their contributions to the overall prosperity of our country, Nigeria. To make restructuring produce a full and abiding good for our country, we must now, for the first time, correct a serious mistake which we have been making from the beginning, especially from the beginning of independent Nigeria. That mistake is that we have been ignoring the fundamental fact that underlies our country. The fundamental fact is that Nigeria is a country of many different nations. That's the truth. And nobody can change that. The fundamental fact is that Nigeria is a country of many different nations. Of nations that are, in some respects, radically different in their cultures, their political traditions, their perceptions of acceptable reality, their expectations, and their desires and goals. Ignoring this fundamental, we have almost continuously let our country wobble and teeter on the brink of violent implosion. And we have continually inflicted serious pains upon ourselves. We fought and ended a civil war, but we have never really moved immeasurably away from the brinks of civil war. We fought and ended a civil war, but we have never really moved measurably away from the brinks of civil war. We have now seen enough to be convinced that we must not continue to ignore the fundamental. The fundamental will not go away. It is we who must harmonize the structure and management of our country to the fundamental. Refusing to recognize and harmonize with the fundamental will certainly continue our country's slide towards dissolution. And it might soon complete that process. Consciously recognizing and harmonizing with the fundamental would almost certainly give our country a long and stable lease of life. But that means that if we do agree and choose to continue to live together as one country, then we all sections of our country must together work out, agree upon, and thoroughly respect the agreed conditions and demands of our living together as one country. We must now absolutely and without further delay address our fundamental and let our country, our nations, and our people have peace. The mounting mood of our younger generations and our youth in this country, the overwhelming and most heavily distressed majority of our country's population, is definitely and increasingly impatiently demanding this. We are already in a crisis. If we, in our sober deference to reality, find that we can no longer hold together as one country, then let us together peacefully find a rational solution. And let us never again plunge into any kind of war among us. It is subhuman to continue to suffer pain and brutalization without trying to get rid of it. And it is insanity to keep doing a thing like the same way over and over, and yet expect a different outcome. I am confident that we Nigerians can make a success of doing the desperately needful now. And I wish our many people and our large number of citizens the best. I thank you all.
Of the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, leader of the Yoruba World Congress, Professor Adebanji Akintoye, says the membership represents a very important step in the collective quest of well-meaning Yoruba people to achieve the goal of dignity and self-determination.
It is my great pleasure and pride to inform you that the Yoruba nation has been admitted to the membership of UNPO. UNPO means Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, with its headquarters in The Hague. The UNPO expressed their gladness to welcome the Yoruba nation as a new member of UNPO, and they are looking forward to working with us. It is important because it is a great stride, and it represents a very important step in our collective quest to achieve the goal of dignity in the country in which we live, and also to achieve the goal of self-determination for our nation. Our Yoruba nation now has a voice on the international stage via the machinery of the UNPO, which maintains a permanent presence before the United Nations and before other international agencies like the European Union, the African Union, the United States government, and the governments of various other countries across the world.
And a very good morning and welcome to the live transmission. My name is Koiki, and it is the beautiful Wednesday. And I say good morning and welcome. And we welcome you all. 3:22 a.m. London, United Kingdom. Nibiti broadcast 18. You've been able to listen to the leader of the Yoruba self-determination, Professor Adebanji Akintoye, just almost at the beginning of the broadcast. And for the benefit of those of you that were able to listen to that broadcast, which was about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I guess, you realize that Nigeria is now in the same situation again. And if care is not taken, Nigeria might go into another civil war. To avoid the civil war, and also for the interest of every Nigerian, the civil war, it will be in the interest of every one of us to continue to take the situation in Nigeria very serious. Some of us are, while majority of us are just waking up and sleeping. Nobody pray for any war or any law and breakdown in Nigeria. But if we all continue to live in this denial that it's not going to happen, and if it eventually happens, what do you do? And how do you respond to such calamity? This is one of the reasons why it is important that, yes, you're quite right. My grandmother, Comfort Adele, says it's even getting worse. The situation is getting worse. I say good morning and welcome to the broadcast. My name is Koiki. You can help us to also share the broadcast, which is what I'm doing, so that we can invite others to come and listen. My platform has been shadow banned, and that literally means that when I go live with the almost 600,000 followers that we have, they are not likely to know that we are live. It is a deliberate act by the social media platforms so that many people do not know that we are currently on air. But there will be a day, if care is not taken, that people would eventually be looking for people like us to come and speak on some of the big network and try to find out what has led to the lawless and the breakdown of Nigeria. We can all wake up every day and try to believe that nothing is going on in Nigeria, but in true picture, there are millions of things happening simultaneously in that contraction you call Nigeria. But one thing I can say is that when things start falling apart, regardless of wherever you are around the globe, you are likely to be affected just like I will be affected. And also, should we all believe that it is not going to happen, you just have to see the tempo and the current state of situation in the present day Nigeria. There is so much instability apart from the economic situation and the insecurity and the many other crises that is happening in the contraction that was put together by the British Empire or the British system in 1914, which we have been talking about, that it needs now to be de-amalgamated. If Nigeria doesn't get de-amalgamated, what is going to eventually happen is that many lives will be affected. Many politicians today knows exactly the current state of what will become of Nigeria within the years to come. But it seems that the average innocent Nigeria probably is still living in denial that the country will be working or would eventually be fixed. This is not going to happen. And that's why some of us have dedicated our lives to this quest for the right of the Yoruba people and the rest of those that wants to come out of the union that was forcefully put together for the interest and the common goal and the business interest of the British system. The rest of the world are aware that Nigeria will eventually collapse, and they're also preparing for that eventuality at the time it's going to happen. But for the Yorubas that are not literally looking at this current situation because of the political terrain or the political gains that they're after, when the things start falling apart, you will not be able to sit in your parliament on the state level and the federal level, and that would literally mean that chaos, as it's happening in Sudan, as it's happening in between other countries that we are witnessing around the world today, would eventually not allow those representatives that we are telling now to start deliberating and discussing whether the Yorubas still want to remain in one block with Nigeria or not. Politics in Nigeria today is not going to fix our problems, regardless of wherever you are today. The current state of political parties do not have what it takes to enable a stable Yoruba economy and also a stable Yoruba system. And this is the more reasons why we must have many of our Yorubas from the political side and also the socialists, the elite, the diasporans, and as many of the friends and lovers of the Yorubas to get involved in these, our quest to self-determination. If we all continue to say nothing is going to happen and we live our lives on a daily basis, we wake up, a lot of us are also still engaged in Nigeria, even though we are literally outside Nigeria. Half of our families are still living in the present day Nigeria, but the problem is the present day Nigeria is becoming very, very unbearable and uncomfortable with our loved ones at home. There is two major groups that are now presently not satisfied with the structure and how Nigeria has been put together. These two major groups are the two groups that are literally holding Nigeria together. And these are the Yorubas and the Igbos. There's nothing called the Hausas anymore, even though Hausa is still part of Nigeria. Hausas have been conquered by the Fulanis and literally they've been taken out of the picture. My question then is, if two major part of Nigerians, not probably full 100% of these groups or these indigenous people, we've got to understand that many Yorubas still want and love Nigeria because for them, they will prefer to be slaves and continue to be under the rules of the Western colonialization that eventually destroy who we are as true Yorubas. The question then we should be asking is, the rest of the percentage of these major groups that are now coming out in the last 3 decades, because in true picture, the existence of Nigerians as a country has been disputed from the day one after the fraudulent fake country that was put together and forced together with what is called the amalgamation. That led to the independent, which itself it's not authentic. When some of you talk about that Nigeria has been given independence in 1960, well, what we got is again a fraudulent independent carved at the Lancaster House for the benefit of one section of Nigeria, which is the northern part of Nigeria, by the British in 1957, 1958, and also the rigging of the censor to favor the northern part. And that is why today, when Nigerians says, or the northern part tell us that they have the numbers, it is because that is what the British told them to tell the rest of the other indigenous people. What we should then start asking ourselves is this union in 21st century still able to work? The argument is that the political or the politicians that are running the current affairs on behalf of the colonial masters, because truly and truly, Nigeria is operated from outside the country. I mean, you can always fact check that. You don't have a full control of your resources, neither do you have a full control of your territories. Your territories have all been conquered. And most importantly, there is now another agenda to force a indigenous part of Nigeria, which is called the Yoruba land, into the hands of the Fulanis and the other agenda by other groups of people that wants to take that territory. While we have now followed our leader under the current state of this Yoruba self-determination, is because we do not want to be conquered, neither do we want to lose our true identity to anybody, regardless of whether they are our friends, our neighbors, or they're going to conquer us years to come. This is more reason why it is important that our politicians should not joke with these requests to sit down with every single one of those that are asking now whether we still want to remain one or not. If they refuse to, it will then eventually mean that they are also against the more reason why our future that we're talking about that is very, very bleak, because the future of the Yorubas in the present day Nigeria is bleak, and we must not allow such to happen. Whether you agree with me today or not, whether you disagree with me or not, again, it is something worth noting that the Yorubas and those that want a total exit would not stop asking for such. We will continue to demand a total exit from these contraction put together by the British for a particular gain and not for the benefit of me as a Yoruba man and for you as a Yoruba woman. Let's now look at what Professor Banji Akintoye said in that particular video that I played earlier, which was a sound bite. He talked about an agenda that has now been put out there that let us live together as one, but you will not be able to practice or be able to do certain things as a Yoruba person. So if you say we should keep one Nigeria, you are telling me that I should throw away my own true identity and continue to have a fake identity that was forced on us by the British in 1914. The British knew who we are, and they're very much aware that the Yorubas, which again is one of the major part of Nigeria, are not in line with the rest of the other 350 or 300 different ethnic groups put together. We should now say to the world that for the benefit of peace to reign in that continent, in those part of the territories that were all conquered by the British during the slave trade, during the period of austerities, when they were literally doing what they think they can do because nobody has the power to stop them. That is now changing in the new world that we are living. The world itself is changing. We are living in a new world. You have to start telling yourself that we are no longer in that era, how the British decided to operate and decided to think that they can do and undo. We will now say to the world that if you want peace to reign in Nigeria, we got to all come back again, either to the Lancaster House and decide what was decided in 1958, 1957, and prior before that, 1913. If that doesn't happen, you will not be able to stop the Biafra campaign, neither will you be able to stop the Yoruba campaign. Guns cannot solve the problem. If the military of the Federal Republic of Nigeria believe that they can use the military might to stop the campaigns, the campaigners, which we are, because I mean, we are not agitators, we are campaigners, just like the Scottish are campaigning for the total exit from what is called United Kingdom. If the federal government, whoever is there presently or in the near future, thinks that you would use the military might to destabilize, to infiltrate, to chase away, to kill, to marginalize, to destroy communities, it is not going to solve, anything. It will literally tell more people why they should come out of this union, because you will not force people to stay together if they don't want to. Nigeria is not united, and it can never be united. We are very serious that we will continue with this campaign. It does not matter whether it will last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but the future of Nigeria, today will become an history, just as the history that we are talking about when we talk about the Soviet Union, USSR. It has become an history. At some point within our lifetime, Nigeria will just be used as a case study, just as the East Timorians decided to believe in their quest to become an independent country away from being bullied and marginalized by the about the case study of the independent of the East Timor. East Timor, as in East Timor. East Timor is one of the countries that just gained their independence not too long ago. It wasn't an easy ride. Neither was it bread and butter. You don't wake up as indigenous people. You don't wake up as people and say, the country that you've lived together for a long time, you want to exit. You will be attacked. African countries and that part of the world are not yet civilized. Not literally that we are not civilized, because we've been civilized before the Europeans did what they call their expedition, destroy, stole, created a different narratives at what we called the colonialism, which was subjugation of indigenous people, exploitation of their land, which is still what is happening today. Because as an example, I do not see any reasons why the Yorubas should be traveling to Dubai to buy gold when we have good amount of gold in Osun State that can be reproduced to whatever and however we want it as an outfit for our daily life, because we cherish these, very important, part of, gold. But today we have great amount of gold in Osun State, yet Osun State is as poor that people cannot eat 3 square meals, neither can they have access to the basic things of life. But the same Yoruba people will then travel to Dubai and then buy what are called gold from the Dubai United Arab Emirates, bring it back to Yoruba territory, and then our mothers would then start selling that, as trades, and we are good traders. The question we should ask is, why have we not transformed Osun State to the gold destination of the world, where people can come around the world and buy the gold that has been produced by the true indigenous people of Yoruba land in Osun State, where they can also use that as another opportunity to open up Osun State to the world. The reason why you want to go to Dubai is because Dubai literally, according to the data of the OEC, which you can check on their website, oec.world, because on this platform, when we talk, we give you the reference to that. As at 2021, the historical data is pointing to me that United Arab Emirates, that many Nigerians travel to for different reasons. Good morning to you, our mother, the 60 Angel TV. We spoke to her on Sunday, and we continue to pray for all those that died during the Sosoliso plane crash in 2005, where we celebrated their lives. And like I did promise, we will start working towards having trees planted. We will decide with the mother where we want those trees to be planted, and we will monitor those trees. We will document it so that by this time next year, we will be able to produce, evidence of such project. Once again, a very good morning to each and every one of you that have joined the platform. Let's go back to East Timor before I come back to Dubai. But put this down. If you're watching this program all the time, you must have pen and paper so that you can be able to take notes. In 2021, there was these data that I've just shared with most of us on the platforms, apart from those of you on Instagram and TikTok. Hopefully we will have access to more device, and it will be easy for me to send when we are working live on those platforms. Let's share quickly to those of you on our backup channel. Also remember to help us to subscribe to our backup channel. We are still less than 1,000 subscribers. We need 1,000 before the end of this month. And it is your own opportunity if you want this platform to remain visible. This platform in the last 3 years has literally been almost pulled down for reasons that it is a campaign platform for the right of the Yoruba people and whoever wants to exit from Nigeria. So we have been shadow banned in the last 3 years. So when we go live, we literally can't do much. There's always restrictions on the platform by Facebook, most importantly, and likewise the other platforms. And Facebook owns Instagram. So when some of you say the numbers is not growing, is because the platform has been shadow banned. So your responsibility, if you want to see me all the time, is to make sure that you like, you share, you also distribute the message. This is the only message that will solve the peace that you're looking for in Nigeria. If otherwise, Nigeria will go into another second civil war. Nobody pray for that, but there is so much indication and tension that it's going towards that direction today. Let's take you back to East Timor. East Timor fully regained independence on the 20th of May 2002. It has not been an easy task for them to have gained such independence. These are very small countries. The total population as at 2021 in East Timor is 1.3 million. But it has not happened easily for them to have gained an independence in 2002 May 20 precisely. Let's walk into how this country eventually gained independence from an occupied Indonesia for more than 24 years. Presently today, the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Hausas, we have all been occupied by the influx of Western colonialism, proxies of ISIS, Boko Haram to destabilize our region. Because any country that has a lot of instability is not likely to grow. Imagine if terrorists operate in UK continuously. UK economy would down very fast because investors will not come to their country, and also there will be so much instability in the system. What you're witnessing in Nigeria today is an hidden agenda to make sure that the true picture of the indigenous people, which are the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Hausas, and all other ethnic groups, would not be able to grow. And we must now make sure that we continue to tell you that if we do nothing now, at some point, you will become slaves in your own country. You need to just look at the IDP camps today. You might not be one of those in that IDP camps, but I can bet you if we remain Nigerians within the next decades to come, you are likely to become slaves living in one of those camps. And you are also likely to be bombed by just as the military killed innocent Nigerians in Kaduna, and we pray for the lives of those that have been affected. And we hope the current administration will investigate what led to the bombing of those in Kaduna, where over 150 lives and many people were injured. East Timor, if they've sat back and do nothing, I'm talking about those that fought and make campaign, rigorous campaign continuously, they would not have been able to have their own independence today. But 24 years was what led to killings, destructions of lands, family torn apart. The diasporans of the East Timor must have paid a lot of heavy price to support those at home during this very difficult time from the hands of very evil Indonesian government as at the time. East Timor was occupied by Indonesia for 24 years, just as Nigerians that are being deceived that we are Nigerians. There's nothing called Nigeria in the dictionary. It is just friction that was put together, and it's an illusion to wake up every day and think because Asisa won football for CAF makes you a better Nigeria. You are just fooling yourself. Asisa is a Yoruba woman just representing a fake identity which she has just been able to elevate. The same thing goes to Okocha. Okocha is using a fake identity known as Nigeria, but we have all been deceived for a very long time. And that goes on and on, from any of the artists, the celebrities, the individuals. The word Nigeria is fake. It was put together for the hidden agenda of the British, and it is time now we pull it down, tear it apart, just as Soviet Union was torn apart and 15 republics came out of it. And one of those republics is Latvia. Latvia is less than 2 million, and you are better off to live in Latvia than live in Nigeria. Nigeria is a British agenda, and that agenda now must be torn apart for the future of the Yoruba people to progress. 24 years in the lives of Indonesians or East Timor under the very difficult, bad genocide by the military of Indonesia. Many Nigerians argue that one set of part of the country destroyed the country. We blame each other, but what you are not putting the blame on is the British that forced this nonsense union on us. And we're going to tear it apart, because the same way the Scottish are now requesting a total exit from the UK, and we will do the same thing without nothing stopping it. It might take years, like I said, but one day Nigeria will all become history, and the true picture of who we are as Yorubas will flourish, negotiate new policy, but most importantly, true picture of our identity will be respected. Most of us travel with a fake passport, which is called Nigeria, because Nigeria is a fake country put together. The real true picture would be a new country that would emerge, and it will not just be one country, it could be up to 10 pulling out of Nigeria simultaneously for the benefit of those indigenous people. East Timor was occupied by Indonesia for 24 years, from 1976 up to 1999. You would think that most of you that believe that you could fix and walk your way to bring Nigeria to the glory path, what you are doing is you will do that, but you will not gain anything. You will eventually die in the process of trying to bring a sink ship like the Titanic. Since Titanic sank till date, nobody, they've tried a lot of expedition to try and be under the water. The last one we saw, almost the capsule blew away. So what many Nigerians are doing is, you're working very hard, in a fake country, in a fake society that it's so much, there's no love. And as much as you're trying to pull it, it's sinking yourself down. And you just have to see as many of the atrocity. And please don't ever come and tell us it's all about leadership. There's no leadership within us. The true leadership would be when we have our own separate independent country. We can go and deal with our problems separately, just as any other countries, Germany, Belgium, we can come together on a union of African Union where the Yoruba will be part of that, the Biafra will be part of that, the Arewa will be part of that. But trying to say that what we are facing right now is leadership problem in that shit old country you call Nigeria, you're wasting your time. It is not leadership problem. It is a fake identity forced on every single Nigerian that we must now tear apart as quickly as possible so that we can save lives and save the next generation. 24 years, like I said, from 1976 to 1999, just like Nigerians have also been faced with fake life of these fake independent that have lasted 63 years, and all you see is rhetorics. But everybody lives in a cocoon and still hoping that one day things will flourish. It is an illusion. Nigeria will never grow. Nigeria will never come up. It will be taken down peacefully, negotiation. But if all this fails, then you are literally saying that it should go into another second civil war, which nobody wants. And you can just smell it around you, especially in the southeast of Nigeria, where there's a lot of tension between the federal government and the Biafras that are asking for a total exit. Nobody loves the Igbos anyway, so why not just give them a referendum and let them go and let the Yoruba continue to negotiate their way out of Nigeria? During which many observers consider a genocide to have taken place. The present day Nigeria is a genocide going on, affecting everybody, not just in the southeast, it's affecting us in the southwest, it's affecting them in the Middle East, it's affecting Middle Belt, it's affecting them in the north, northeast, northwest. So there is systematic genocide that has been taking place in Nigeria for the last 6 decades. But it seems that for some selfish individuals and selfish corporate organizations that are all operating in that territory. They've continued and continuously tried to protect certain set of people. I'm sure a lot of you remember Ken Saro-Wiwa was killed because he was fighting a just cause. Many lives have been destroyed. Many towns are not believing the nonsense that the military are saying presently. The bombing of Kaduna, I believe that there's something being found in that area, and it's just to disperse the people away so that they can bring in the countries that have been able to visibly see that there is some kind of resources underneath the soil. And when you bomb the people, people will disperse, they will run away from that area, and that area will become militarized. They will then start moving your resources. And I can prove that because I was reading the minister of, and I just want to link that to the conversation, because as much as we talk about the Yoruba exit, we must still talk about what are news coming out of this contraction called Nigeria. Also, if you're interested in the book, I've just been able to find out that the Yoruba people that was put together by Professor Adebanji Akintoye, you can get it from Konga for 30,000 naira in case you want a copy yourself. So that can be bought from Konga website, 30,000 naira. It's a book that I believe every Yoruba should have a copy. I'll be having my copy as well. I just saw this yesterday from the Yoruba Clubhouse on their X space. Let's now link these, article that came out from the People's Gazette just yesterday. Once again, ahead of Nnamdi Kanu's court case, Biafrans must sit at home. We will lock the state so that Nnamdi Kanu is the only savior of our life for those of us that believe in his fight. So 15th of December, there's a sit-at-home under the leadership of the Prime Minister, Government in Exile, Simon Ekpa. So if you're a Yoruba man, Yoruba woman, don't travel to that region so that you are not being killed by the governors that are using security outfits to kill innocent people and put that blame on the ESN. On the 16th of December, you sit at home and there's no movement. On the 17th of December, you will sit at home. On the 18th of December, you will sit at home. And on the 19th of December, you will sit at home so that you will then be able to be safe. If you refuse to listen to all these advice, you are putting yourself and your life at risk. And this is coming from Prime Minister, Government in Exile, Simon Ekpa. Dele Alake, I'm sure a lot of you know him, is under this new administration, is the Minister for Mineral Resources. And he actually said something that I want us to quickly pick on that I saw. Okay, let's Google it quickly. Dele Alake. He has told me and you that the present terrorists operating in Nigeria are being funded by the same mineral resources of Nigeria. And this is coming from the cable. And you can fact check these as well. I mean, you can find it on the Punch newspaper. And this is the headline so that you have an idea. The cable, Dele Alake, powerful Nigerians behind illegal mining, they are also funding banditry. Take note of that. The Punch newspaper, powerful Nigerians behind illegal mining, the insecurity Alake alleges. Remember that Channels Television is saying the same thing 6 hours ago. Powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining, terrorism. So let's pick on the channels, but also you can find the same story on Premium Times. Nigerian government, one bank took, okay, that's a different headline. So let's go with the one from Channels Television. And this is by Terry Ikume, updated as at yesterday. Today is now the 13th day of the month of December. My name is Olami Koiki. We have another 1 hour. This program will end at exactly 5 a.m. here in London. He stated this when he appeared before the House of Representative Committee on the Solid Minerals from Ministry's 2024 Budget Defense in Abuja. We've talked about terrorism in Nigeria, but like I always say, it is all funded by the direct and indirect Nigerians and the international corporation. Let me go back to East Timor because I want to complete that section and then move us to Dubai, that many of us try to travel to, leave. That's if you get a work permit, because in the last 2 years, Nigerians living in Dubai have not been renewed their work permit, but many people still travel there. Bola Tinubu was there with all his fake, groups of people. Many of you will be traveling there for Christmas. Some of you are doing business there. But most importantly, I will tell you the percentage of our raw gold that United Arab Emirates bought in 2021. So don't go anywhere yet. We still have about an hour to the end of the program. My name is Olami Koiki. This is KOIKIMEDIA. Like I said earlier, East Timor is now a free country, but it took them 24 years under a very bad, military regime of the Indonesian government. But they eventually won the fight. It wouldn't have gone without people being killed. Not just genocide that have taken place, according to so many observers, just as many observers, Amnesty International and so many other, are talking about the genocide that have been committed, especially during the Civil War in 1967. More than 5 million innocent lives were killed during that war. Till date, nobody has taken the responsibility for such. If care is not taken, we might end up again in that same direction. But rather than that same direction, we'll be better off to negotiate whether we want to remain as one unit called Nigeria, or we divide and disintegrate, deamalgamate, dissolution, whatever is of the words to you. It was estimated by one report that Indonesian occupation of the East Timor was literally responsible for the death of almost 180,000 East Timorians in that 24 years. By the time Nigeria will break, it's going to break. So don't think the word break is not going to happen. And if you don't like the word break, it will dissolve. If you don't like the word dissolve, it will be deamalgamated. It will be done peacefully. But if you refuse to think that it cannot be done peacefully, then it will be done in whatever ways anybody feel uncomfortable with. It is not yours to say to those campaigners that they should just go and sit down, the military will deal with them, the DSS will deal with them. When the time comes, the DSS will run away, the military will run away, because it will become very, very stiff, very, very difficult for them to operate and deal with the situation, especially if care is not taken and things exploded. So as we speak right now, you cannot keep Nnamdi Kanu and say, oh, just lock him away and throw the key into the ocean and then expect, Simon Ekpa to sit back and not react with all the lovers of freedom, the Biafrans. But after the total disintegration, dissolution, the breakup, I love to use the word breakup because it's going to break anyway, so it doesn't matter whether you like that word or not. It's either we do through referendum, negotiation, dialogue, peacefully, and everybody go their separate ways. After the whole thing have been pulled down, that is when the new government of each of the new nations that will emerge, which they will emerge. The Yoruba nation will emerge. The Biafran nation will emerge. The Arewa will emerge. The Middle Belt will emerge. And you can decide wherever you want to live as at the time, whether you want to live with your people or you want to live with others. That will be an option to you on the table. But it will happen in my lifetime, and we will make sure we educate every single Nigerian that you will not have a better life in that shit hole contraction, messed up country that was forced on us by the British in 1914. We will pull down the last empire, and it is not a joke. It's going to happen. Then we will be able to find out the total numbers of the Yoruba people that have died. This would then be something that our government would have to open up a panel of inquiries. It would detail up to the last death of someone that wanted to give birth but died in the process of trying to give birth. It would happen. It would be a job. It would be, scientific. It would be practical. And we would then be able to say, probably after years, that during the period that the Yorubas were living in this shit hole country called Nigeria, we lost this total amount of people. But I can give you an estimate of how many we lost during the former president, the sadist, dead or alive, Muhammadu Buhari, and the fake Pastor Ruga, Yemi Osibajo. We lost a total of 28,000 Yoruba people died in that government for 8 years. So when some of you say we are not at war, I don't know what you mean by that, because you go on the Yoruba territory now, people are hungry. That tells me automatically we are at war. You go, as I speak to you today, many people are dying silently because they cannot access medical. They are using now, the traditional herbs. There's nothing wrong in that, but you must make sure that if you're going to be using that, it is also proven that you are not taking too much, but you still need the medical side to check you. Many of you say that we should not, have the country to be dissolved. But again, you cannot have a total 24 hours electricity, because according to the story 2 days ago, nationwide darkness as the national grid collapsed again. And I said, Nigeria has always been in darkness anyway. It doesn't make any difference. Just again, less than 24 hours ago, there was a young man called Sebayo, kidnapped 2 days in Akure. You can go on my page on Twitter where I've posted it, because I can't post it on Facebook and the other platform. It's going to be pulled down. You will see the picture there. I have the video. It's a very terrible death. You can go to Port Harcourt on my status and see how lives have become nothing in that shit hole country called Nigeria for so many reasons. Again, 24 hours ago, Sarah reporter reported of kidnap of the foreign expatriate, which happened. Gunmen attack Daewoo convoy in Rivers State, adopt 2 Korean expatriates, killed 4 Nigerian soldiers. There could be Igbo in that soldier. There could be Middle Belt. There could be Yorubas. 2 drivers lost their lives. On a daily basis, it has become a blood-sucking country, and whether you like it or not, it will be pulled down. We will remove the oxygen that is left in that messed up country. Let's go back again to East Timor because of the time constraint. We now know that it took 24 years. It also took lives. So when people say, oh, we want Yoruba nation, but we don't want people to die. Oh, we want Yoruba nation, but we don't want death. Well, I don't know how that is going to happen, because under the former sadist, evil Buhari that we are now being told bankrupted Nigeria, dead or alive, 28,000 Yoruba people died. We don't know how many Yoruba will die under this new administration of Tinubu himself, but we will find out as time goes on. But I'm sure I don't have data. I don't have the true picture, but I'm sure you and myself would have known 1 or 2, 3 people that have lost their lives under this new administration in 6 months. And may their soul continue to rest in peace. The human rights violence The human rights violations of the Indonesia government resulted in the homegrown resistant movement pushing for independence. Presently, we're not seeing much of Steve in the Southwest. We don't know why, but in the Southeast, it has become militarized. You know, you hardly cannot move without seeing a lot of military checkpoints. And all this is because they have become resistant to the present day country called Nigeria. So those campaigners of the Biafrans today are using a civil disobedience. That means on the Monday, they lock down the state to show their disagreement with the union called Nigeria. So what you should start asking yourself is, if one section of the country on a Monday lock down the state because they disagree with the country, don't you start thinking that they are resisting something? And resistance has been going on for years. You cannot stop the Biafra campaigners. You can kill as many of them. It will just continue to give them much strength. And there's so much evidence as well that the military from henceforth that the campaigners have been coming out, they've been killing them. Many lives have lost. Nnamdi Kanu first escaped a death threat, just like Dr. Igboho also escaped the death threat. I remember speaking to Chief yesterday on a conference call, and the other person on the other line, which is not for public consumption, continued to say that we cannot afford to leave Chief alone because he is the eye of the Yoruba people today. Look, forget about all these Afeniferes and all these other different organizations. We are not literally knocking them off, but they are not going to do exactly what Igboho is doing. Igboho is doing something different, and that is why we love him, we appreciate him, and we must continue to rally around him spiritually, financially, morally, and that is why I said I will be his last man standing, because I was able to meet at least one of the high-ranking kings in Yoruba land, Ikuba Bayeye, and most of them could not even come out and say it the way Igboho have said it. Today, Ikuba Bayeye, we don't say the king died, we say Obati Waja. Obawaja, but they've literally left us in limbo today. If what we, myself, and Igboho discuss with Ikuba Bayeye, if he has literally come out and said it, we would defend this territory with our life. But Ikuba Bayeye refused to go in line, and I'm not going into all the details for public consumption. But we told him certain things, myself and Oloye Igboho, and if he has done it, nothing would have happened. Many Yoruba people will have supported it, and we would have all defended that territory against the invaders of today. Now, he has gone to our ancestor, but he has left us again in the same situation that his own great-grandfather left us. The question is, are these kings going to really come out officially and defend our territory, or they'll continue to pretend as if nothing is happening? Let's move swiftly. What led to the resistance, the homegrown resistance? Nnamdi Kanu was just campaigning, telling those Biafrans, reason why it is time now to exit this British contraction. Many people started understanding. Some disagree with him. As time goes on, the momentum starts building. And then what the government thought was in the best interest for them is to go and do Python dance. I bet you now, if the government tried python dance in the southeast, there would also be python snake that will bite them back. They might have tried that nonsense before. Is because the resistance were not using the same force against the military. But today, without going into too much of the details, I'm sure no one of us is young on the social media. I expect us to be all 18. In America, you have the right to defend yourself. You can literally walk into the shop and buy a weapon to protect yourself. So when some of you come online and say, certain part of those that are campaigners in the Southeast are protecting themselves, they must protect themselves because nobody will sit back, just as I said, and allow criminals, terrorists, to walk into their home. And when I say criminal terrorists, I've also added the Nigerian military to that, because even the current Police Inspector General of Police, Ebetokun, said, and I quote, that the Nigerian military are also operating like the Boko Haram by invading Adamawa Police Headquarters. So automatically, what the current Inspector General of Police, Egbetokun, is saying is that the Nigerian police is just a full-blown terrorist. Evidence have indicated continuously that you do not have a full Nigerian military as it used to be some 40, 30 years ago. What you now have is infiltrators of criminal terrorists in the uniform. And there's massive evidence. I can remind you of a young man that traveled from Abuja. Maybe some of you can go back on Google and search that. He traveled to his hometown in Osun State, wanted to go for a wedding, returning back to Abuja. I believe he's an engineer working with the federal government. He was stopped, but he thought he was being stopped by men of Nigerian military. Well, it ended up to be that those that stopped him were not Nigerian military, they were not Igbos, they were not Yorubas. These were full-blown Fulani in the Nigerian military attire that you and myself would not be allowed to wear even within Nigeria today. Eventually, he was killed. The mother was shot in the leg. He had a son. Those two survived. Check this story. It is not a joke. I can also remind you of the Owo killings that took place in Ondo State. Many of these atrocities are committed by the same people that you think that are military, but they are all operating under disguise of military. They've been infiltrated. So the reason why there was an homegrown resistant movement pushing for independence in East Timor was because the Indonesian military thought by killing them and occupying their land, they will not resist. Well, it paid off. So whatever we are doing today as campaigners, one day, it will pay off. How soon, how long, it will be subject to when all the Yorubas wake up from their slumber. Many Yorubas are living in slumber, and we will continue to remind you not to sleep with your two closed eyes. We are all in danger in that contraction. You might say that it is not going to affect you, and I pray it doesn't affect you. But that is what others have said, and it has literally affected them. It is not something we want to reference to, but it is just a fact that we lost two of our brothers last year. Dr. Aborode, he lived all his life as a PhD holder in Germany, returned back to set up a mechanized farming somewhere in Okeogun in Oyo State. He was doing it to make money, just like you are also trying to make money, and myself. He eventually got caught up with the terrorist Fulanese. He was disbanded, he was killed, and the rest is history. Mr. Benga Owolabi from Maryland flew into Nigeria. He bought his ticket. He had a business, again, somewhere in Oyo State. He had an hotel. He had a small ranch where he wanted to run a business. Maybe he wanted to be even transporting some of his produce to America because there's a market niche for it. But what he did not factor is that the country that he loved so much that he wanted to invest in does not have the same respect for him. The same day he touched down in Nigeria and arrived in Ogbomoso was the same day he was kidnapped. You need to listen to the audio before he died. You will cry. He had a young Nigerian, a Yoruba, Rachel, Okwadokun or Okwadele or something like that worked with him. Not that Rachel cannot work, because we have a lot of our children that do part-time jobs. But Rachel was literally out of school because the messed up country of today closed down university because they were not ready to pay lecturers. So the strike went on. And because Rachel does not want to become a prostitute, was employed either through network of those that knows Mr. Gbenga Wolabi, and Rachel became one of those staff that was kidnapped with Mr. Gbenga Wolabi. This is not story, okay? Mr. Gbenga Wolabi body was returned back to US for a proper burial. You can Google it and you will find all these videos, because I did help them during the recording of his transmission back to his creator. The family I pray for, the children I pray for, refuse to bury him in that shit hole I call contraction called Nigeria. We will remove the last oxygen in Nigeria with our education, with our enlightenment, and you will hate Nigeria so much that you will not wait longer before it pulls down. This man's body was literally, the US government got involved, and after all the inquiries, the body was returned back to the family. They put it on the plane. The body returned back to Maryland, where he's currently resting. You will wonder if he has died naturally in Nigeria or in Yoruba land, we would have buried him. 2018, a mother, a daughter, and a father returned to Nigeria. They were kidnapped. The mother became the sacrificed lamb. She was raped continuously. I know some of you might say, I pray in Jesus' name. It's not going to happen to me. Well, they prayed as well in Jesus' name and in Anobi and in Sheshe, but eventually, maybe whatever happened, I'm not saying those prayers failed, but it's just that they got caught up. So continue to live in denial as a Yoruba woman, as a Yoruba man, and say, you, this guy, you don't have a job, go and do something else. Well, I just pray that Nigeria do not happen to you. I will use you as my case study on this broadcast. But for those that we have used it in a good note, and we pray for those families. Nigeria will not happen to you and me, but it's just a lie. It will happen to somebody at some point. Moving forward quickly, after the military in Indonesia thought they could force themselves on the lives of East Timorians, the East Timor decided to set up their own armed wing called the Falatinate. Falatin. It is called the Armed Forces for the National Liberation of the East Timor. So what you're seeing today, especially with the Biafrans setting up the Eastern Security Network, it is not new. It is something that happened when you are now becoming a target and you don't have the security to protect you. The Nigerian security are committing genocide. Literally, they are not protecting innocent lives. So the ESN was set up, I believe, before Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped and rendition. And that is now under the control of the government in exile of the Biafrans. And if you're a Biafran, you must donate and support that mission so that your lives can be protected by the ESN. You can say that the military will support you. You might end up taking a Fulani terrorist in the military camouflage. These armed forces for the national liberation of the East Timor originally began as a military wing of the Fratellin Party of the East Timor. It was established on the 20th of August 1975 in response to the fracturing political conflict with the Timorese Democratic Union. So it is not new that, military wings or military setup are always coming up when it comes to countries that are now used to destroy another indigenous people. And this is why eventually the East Timor paramilitary decided to protect the lives of their people. It has literally cost them 180,000 people to die. But do you know that the East Timor today, under the passport index, can travel to UK without a visa? My question is, how much more do you want to wait before you get your own freedom? Are you ready for that freedom? Do you want that freedom? And if you truly want the freedom, how quick do you want it? Do you want it now? Or do you want it later? Do you want it today? Or do you want it in the next 50 years? Some people will sacrifice more than others. It is just the nature of life. Some of us will do more, while some will do nothing. While some of you will sit back and not get involved, but do not complain and try to pull down those that are working hard so that we can all be free from the contraction put together by the British government. And like I said, the East Timorians today have now got a better life. You can fact check this, and I'm going to share the link again on www.passportindex.org. 24 years fighting to gain their freedom, 1.3 million population. Today, if you hold a East Timor passport, I'm not talking about the contraction shit old Nigerian passport. If you're able to get to East Timor, secure their passport through whatever immigration rules, you can fly back to London and get a visa on arrival. That is part of what they fought for. Are you ready to fight as well? To be free? Or do you still want to be deceived by all these corrupt politicians that knows that Nigeria is not working and they're using your lives as one tool to protect their own selfish gain? Once again, freedom is not going to be easy. It will be fought. And that is exactly what we are doing today. As we love those that appreciate freedom, for those of you that are still arguing with yourself that the political space will change anything in Nigeria, you can vote from now to thy kingdom come. There will never be peace among every region. As I leave you away from the East Timor, we're going to touch again on the colonialism because we are just about almost 26 minutes to the end of the program because I've got to go back to bed. What is colonialism? According to the nationalgeographical.com, the subjugation of indigenous people, the exploitation of their land and the resources has a long and brutal history. Once again, what is colonialism? Many people believe that we are still free We are no longer under any sort of colonialism. But we all know that is a lie, because we are indirectly or directly under that rules. Colonialism is defined as control by one power over a dependent area or people. It occurs when one nation subjugates another, conquering its population, exploiting it, often while forcing its own language and cultural values on its people. By 1914, which is almost the same year that Nigeria was amalgamated, a large majority of the world's nation has been colonized by the Europeans at some point. We now find out that not everybody gave in for such nonsense. Countries like Japan, Korea, Thailand have been told that Ethiopia and some few other nations were never colonized by the Europeans. There's nothing wrong in if we took some of the good things the Europeans brought. But what they did was to remove the major part of our culture and language and forced English on us. And that is why today, English seems to be a language that we are all lovely to speak, while we are now losing the Yoruba language very, very fast, declining, maybe not at the speed of sound, but should we continue with the contraction of Nigeria, at some point in the next couple of decades to come, the Yoruba language will become an extinction language. And people will just remember it as a language spoken at some point. You might say it is not going to happen, but by the time you remain in Nigeria and the influx of other foreigners are coming in, your language will continue to decline because it will not be spoken as it is. Don't be deceived and fooled by some of these corrupt governors saying that we will be speaking Yoruba in some schools or that we're doing Yoruba languages. When we have our own nation, we would have a full country operating in Yoruba language 24/7, and English will be a second language. Let's go straight now and leave that to the next slide. I talked about the board. But before I go into that, let's talk about what is Dele Alake saying. It shows that Dele Alake is a new minister under this present administration. And as usual, many Yorubas are hoping that people like himself and his boss will stabilize Nigeria for us, and Nigeria will become great. Well, I disagree with that. Dele Alake has been able to spotlight that under the Minister of Solid Mineral, powerful Nigerians, when I use the word powerful Nigerians, they are still scared to tell you who are these powerful Nigerians. Is it this name? Is it that name? Why are they not telling us the names? Are they ghosts? Powerful Nigerians. Are they Yorubas? Are they Hausas? Are they also those proxies? The word powerful Nigerians means that you are not the powerful Nigerians, myself and you on this thread, probably maybe one or two people that are using fake accounts that are powerful watching me. But we all know when they use the word powerful Nigerians, that means the people that you see on the Instagram, on those pages of newspapers, having big events, big lavish party, big convoys, private jets. These are the powerful Nigerians that he's talking about, not you that is trying to get into the Micra in Ibadan, the downfall in Lagos, the Keke Napel, the Okadas, in all those bad roads. You are not the one that he's talking about, because I'm not sure whether you have access to Nigerian mineral resources and the mining, which has been very illegal. We know that because we've seen evidence in Zamfara State. Zamfara gold belongs to Zamfara, but the Port Harcourt or the Papapa water ways belongs to all Nigerians. The Minister of Solid Mineral, Mr. Dele Alake, yesterday alleged, and I'm reading this from the channel's website, alleged that some powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining are sponsoring banditry, take note of that, terrorism in the country. Now, the question you should ask yourself is, why you, the average citizen, fighting me, fighting each other? These corrupt, powerful Nigerians are the one using the same terrorist to chase you and me. And those terrorists do not care whether you are Christian, you are Muslim, whether you have a TikTok account, whether you have a Facebook account, whether you are a self-determination campaigner, whether you are a Catholic Christian, whether you are a Sunni Muslim. When they get hold of you, they will deal with you in their own capacity. If I don't know, at least I'm aware that as of today, maybe if I wake up in the morning again and the news says it has updated, 4 Nigerians are still in the hands of these terrorists. I'll remind you who they are. They were traveling from Akwa Ibom for the nonsense NYSC that many of you today have been told to go and do, because it's just to bring unity among Nigeria, which was never a country. America will never advise their citizens to go to Sokoto. While Nigeria says there's nothing wrong to go to Sokoto, but there's a lot wrong before you get to Sokoto, because as you travel on that corruption road and the contraction, you will likely be kidnapped. And that is exactly what has happened to these young Nigerians that were traveling for their NYSC. Some of them have paid huge ransom, while some are still currently being held as I speak. Who are these Nigerians? And what is the reason for making sure that while they continue to get involved in illegal mining, which is wrong itself, but they've now decided to add banditry and terrorism in the country? I am not the one saying this. This is what Dele Alake is saying, the current Minister of Solid Mineral. And that shows the same thing that Baba Akintoye and Igboho has been talking about, that the country is very, very unsafe for the Yoruba people. But the same Yoruba people are pointing finger at Igboho and Baba Akintoye for waking our conscious mind of the illegal or illegality that is currently taking place in Nigeria. Do we now say also that there's an illegal mining in Osun State? I'm sure if you don't know, I have vast amount of evidence of gold taken from Osun State, traveling through some certain airline, then end up in Switzerland. These travels goes on every week. I've not been updated by this person anymore for some time now, but I have said it that if care is not taken, some of us, you will just be hearing that Osun has a gold, but you will never enjoy the benefit of that gold. Because why? Powerful Nigerians are involved in the illegal mining of the gold in Osun State, and also using terrorism and banditry to chase you away from your own God-given territory. All this is why we are saying it cannot continue. Who then buys our gold is the question we should ask ourselves before we go. We have vast amount of gold in Osun State, but this gold end up in two places, and you can fact check this on the www.oec.world. The first country that buys this gold is United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates buys 91.6% of our gold to the total value of $144 million. I disagree with this data, and I'll tell you why. This is not an accurate data because they will never tell you the total amount of gold exported in raw material out of Nigeria. There will always be the back end cutting, corruption. So when they're telling me that we value our gold export to United Arab Emirates in 2021 to the value of 144 million, it shows again a system where the current, I believe Wale Adun says that we will now be able to account for every crude oil coming out of Nigeria. Again, if they're able to do that, fine. But after 8 years, Bola Tinubu will not be able to do that anymore because he will no longer be in power. So whatever they're planning to do right now, as Dele Alake is pointing out to us that Nigerians are all in danger because those illegal mining are being funded by powerful Nigerians. He knows the name. I don't have the names, but I'm sure some of us will start asking questions. Who are these powerful Nigerians that have now turned Nigeria into a bloodbath? But rather than Nigerians to pick on those powerful Nigerians, you're picking on Simon Ekpa, you're picking on Igboho, you're picking on people like myself and those that are asking questions, because I am worried that many of us are being attacked and killed by terrorists, but it is the same people that are creating these that you are defending on a daily basis, and you defend them that you end up taking your PVC to vote them in again. And I can give you names and evidence, which we've done a lot of programs on. But it's so sad that the medulla oblongata of many Nigerians today, it seems that the Fulani voodoo is working on you. I know some of you think that you are praying, but you are literally being locked in a spell. As I was almost coming to the program before I woke up from my bed, I wanted to put that, is Nigeria under spell? As one of my topic tonight or these early hours. But I say, I'll probably just say it in the broadcast. Nigerians, you are under spell. And that is why you're fighting hard to defend the people that Dele Alake is talking about. Those powerful Nigerians that are now putting banditry on our road network, in our farmland, killing, disturbing us, making life unbearable for many of us. They are the same powerful Nigerians that are putting in terrorism, bring back our girls. I'm sure you remember Dr. Chinelo was attacked on the train network from Abuja to Kaduna. Even Rotimi Amechi says, I told Buhari that it will happen, but probably maybe Buhari care less. Many Nigerians are still under the spell, and that is why you're fighting us back to back. But Dele Alake has just told me to tell you this morning that the illegal mining, which I don't have access to, you don't have access to, you are just a puppet living in the poverty country with the insecurity, but this insecurity is generated by the powerful Nigerians. The same powerful Nigerians can be in Agbada, they can be in Babariga, they can be in all different outfits depending on which part of the country, Nigeria, they're operating as their indigenous people. When you see them, you hail them, you love them, you appreciate them. Many of you would love to go to Dubai. If Osun State was a very powerful state because of the amount of gold that we have, I would not see any one of us traveling to live in Dubai, talk less of going to buy gold in Dubai, especially to our mothers. Many of them have traded in gold business and they're still doing it. But Osun State that should have been producing the same amount of ornament of this gold and transform them into whatever design, it has not worked because powerful Nigerians would rather kill you and me to steal this gold and send them to Dubai, and me and you will get on a plane and travel to Dubai to buy them. The next country, just only 2 countries are buying gold from Nigeria. The next country, before we go, because I have just 9 minutes, is Switzerland. Switzerland buys a total value of $12.9 million worth of gold, raw materials, of gold, at about 8.19%. I pray that you will understand that it is just an hidden agenda. Again, I always say, don't bring leadership to this platform that it's a leadership problem. Those leadership that you're talking about, the leadership in the north is different ideology from the leadership in the southeast. It's a different leadership ideology to the one in the southwest. So how do you then put these 3 major groups that have different ideology and expect to have a fake country to work? Nigeria is not a country. It will never be a country. We must do whatever it takes to say it as it is. If you think that the American embassy and the ambassador is telling you that there's hope in Nigeria with whatever program that they're doing, they know very well that there's no country called Nigeria. And the same thing goes to any other embassies and their representatives. There's nothing wrong asking for a right to self-determination. It is just that we will never work together as one block in this messed up contraction that was forced on us. So I'm going to read quickly what Dele Alake said, and that will be the end of the program. Powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining and terrorism, Dele Alake. He stated this when he appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on Solid Minerals for the Ministry's 2024 Budget Defense in Abuja, the nation's capital. The Minister of Solid Mineral, Mr. Dele Alake, on Tuesday, alleged that some powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining are sponsoring banditry terrorism in the country. He stated this when he appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on Solid Minerals for the Ministry 2024 Budget Defense in Abuja, the nation's capital. Alake is also alleging that foreigners also engage in illegal mining in the country. What an interesting time to be alive. I am a foreigner in this country. I dare not try to go into illegal mining in this country. But because you have a failed country called Nigeria, we now also have foreigners, have the infantries to come on our land, on our territory, chase away our people using banditry and terrorism, then secure that area and extract as much as what they can extract and move them in the darkness of the night to be sold outside Nigeria. But many Nigerians are much more comfortable to come online and attack those of us that are talking about these atrocities. You are literally under a spell, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. And I know one day the spell will cast away from your eyes and you will become one of the freedom fighters in your own little capacity. Alake also alleging that foreigners, we don't know which of the countries, but we've seen evidence that the Chinese foreigners in Ilorin and some places have been caught working illegally in mining in some of our sectors in that state. Sometimes they can't even show their faces, but Nigerians are more quicker to turn on their camera and show us faces of innocent, or probably, should I say innocent, but average Nigerians are still, which we don't condone, because they want to prove and raise traffic on their own platforms. But those that are creating this havoc, even when they bring them on the news network, they hardly show us their faces. It shows that the powerful Nigerians that he's talking about says, show them, but probably don't let Nigerians see their faces. What a very difficult time. He called on the federal government to pay close attention to the mining sector. They're not. Dele Alake is wasting his time, I'm sorry to say. He will do whatever he needs to do, maximum 4-8 years. The people behind that sector will be not comfortable with what he's doing, but they will wait patiently until Dele Alake government finish. Because Dele Alake will not be involved in another ministry position when the power change hand, especially as the power will be returned back to the north, because nobody will give power to the southeast because nobody trusts them, even though we are meant to be one Nigerians. The hatred for them, just as we also, even in as much as they also have hatred for us, shows that the southeast will never become a president in the country called Nigeria. So Dele Alake is just trying to put water in a basket. But again, we wish them good luck. He called on the federal government to pay close attention to the mining sector, which would take in trillions for the country annually. Militants have been establishing presence in the northwest and the central Nigeria outside their traditional northeast base, where they have been waging a more than 13-year insurgency. So Dele Alake thinks that he can stop something that has been going on for 13 years. The bandit militia terrorized local communities where they raid villages, killed and kidnapped residents for ransom, as well as burn homes after looting them. As I leave us tonight, I've talked about East Timor. If you're traveling, I don't know, you might want to do your fact check. Maybe you can go to East Timor if you can get there and see how you can live there and secure probably maybe their passport, I don't know. And that will probably, according to the passport index, which you can fact check. If you're coming to UK with an East Timor passport, you would get the visa on arrival. We've been told that Nigeria is a Commonwealth, yet you cannot travel with that fake passport to UK anymore. Immigration is becoming very tough around the world. And I hope wherever you plan to go or not to go, remember to fact check very well so that you do not get caught up in immigration across the globe. My name is Olami Koiki. This is how far I can go this morning. I wish you a very good morning, and we'll be on again later. Remember to turn on your notification bell. Remember to follow us on all our platforms. Most importantly, remember to support the little that we are doing so that we can do more. A very good morning. Bye for now.